Hey guys, welcome back to Telltale. I'm Emily.
I'm very
And today we are going to be talking about our next Little Dick story. Philip K. Dick, Planet for Transient?
Planet for Transients, yeah.
Transients, plural.
And that was, we're in October of 1953. Finally, moved
October!
out of September.
October. We're still in 1953 though. Heaven help us.
Yeah, and well, he published 3 different stories just in October.
Oh, gosh.
And this is the first of them, his 28th published work. And it was published in Fantastic Universe magazine, their October-November 1953 issue. And I have it in We Can Remember It For You wholesale. I didn't bring books with me. I've held that one up before. Emily read a free PDF that we found on the internet of the original Fantastic Universe magazine.
Yes.
And one thing I don't like about that issue is there's no interior art. I love interior black and white art.
I kind of was disappointed in that as well. All the
Yeah.
interior art is the ads.
So there really isn't any art for Planet for Transients
Sucks.
in existence. So, do you want to do the synopsis?
Sure. So the synopsis is it is 300 years after some kind of nuclear disaster, Holocaust, whatever. And it's not exactly, it doesn't exactly tell you what specifically happened to cause this nuclear disaster and to put radiation all over the world.
Yeah, well, it was a war.
Yeah, it was a war and it was man-made, a man-made situation, but it doesn't name names, essentially.
Yeah.
So this guy is in a lead-lined suit and helmet, and he comes from a mine of humans who are living underground, and he is looking in Pennsylvania, and he is looking to find the next tribe of humans if he can, but he keeps encountering all of the byproducts of this radiation. So there are like bug people, there are runners who are like little furry people, and there are these really 8-foot tall gray alien people. All of them have adapted in different ways to be able to continue to survive in the environment. But every time he encounters another species, he asks them, have you seen any humans? And a lot of them are like, no, we thought you were all gone. We thought you were all gone. Eventually, when he runs into the runners, the little furry, like foxy people, they say, hey, we haven't seen a human in months. And he's like, months? He gets so excited. But he's been on the road for about 5 years, and he is not the only person from this tribe of people who live in the mines that's on a mission. One for sure is over in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's still trekking along, and he gets to New York in hopes that he'll find, because it was such a denser population of people, that he'll actually still find people. And when he gets there, he realizes, oh yeah, people were here, but they're gone now. And so he's just kicking himself and disappointed. There's of course some much more interesting little adventures he has on the way than this point. And eventually he finds the people who were coming back to get supplies, and they've just determined that Earth is not habitable anymore. And they've built a rocket. There are a bunch of engineers who are able to basically fix up a rocket ship, and they're flying around collecting historical information and supplies and food and all kinds of things. And then they're gonna hightail it out of there and try to hit up Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually head out to Jupiter, one of the moons of Jupiter, to see if that's sustainable for life. Yeah. So that's the entire premise of this story, with some spoilers. But it was pretty fun. I liked this one.
It was a good story, and it's coming at a time when I've read a whole bunch of these after the bomb stories.
Yeah.
I read
Post-apocalyptic.
Shadow of the Hearth,
Mm-hmm.
Shadow on the Hearth. I've read 2 by Poul Anderson that were post-apocalyptic. Of course, we've had others before by Dick that were after the bomb, and that was right away after Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Mm-hmm.
That became a theme in science fiction that a lot of science fiction writers wrote about, is the idea of a nuclear war, an all-out nuclear war, possibly the radiation causing genetic mutations that would result in all kinds of monsters. And
it not just being isolated to the areas either, being a worldwide phenomenon.
And eventually that resulted in a lot of really bad science fiction films in the 50s.
Oh, well.
A lot of the science fiction writers, though, in the 1950s, as fun and imaginative as their works were, of course, the science in it is complete garbage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we know radiation will affect genetics, but not in any way sustainable. It generally creates cancers and stuff that kills everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't produce whole new
It takes what's there,
advancedly evolved
mutates
forms of
it,
life.
and kills it off, essentially.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They can't live. So, we know the science is a little bit wrong, but it was still fun to read about all. It was a pseudoscientific excuse to create a whole bunch of really cool monsters.
Yes.
on Earth.
Yes. Like the cockroach people, the bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Those are pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And their culture is kind of hive mind-esque. So it uses a lot of science that we understand it as humans when we start looking at our biological world. So I appreciated that a lot, that they had these basically roach people that could speak English.
But I think it does make a greater point that isn't so fantastic, that if we did do an all-out nuclear war, it would be the end of the human race. We wouldn't be able, if any of us did survive, we wouldn't be able to survive the resulting environment. And so the only life that would survive would be
that which can adapt.
Cockroaches, or the ones that are more adaptable than we are.
Bacterias, that kind of thing. Yeah. It is both a commentary on how resilient we are as humans, but also how fragile we are because of our ecosystem. And it also speaks to the fact that any changes to our ecosystem are going to be man-made.
Yeah.
Because we are having a greater impact on our environment than any other natural phenomenon. So I kind of appreciated for that. I could also see this translating really well into a climate issue based story, not necessarily nuclear, but evolutionary, maybe over several thousand years. The evolutionary processes of creatures trying to live in a climate that humans had changed so many hundreds of thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see it translating that way as well.
Dinosaurs coming back in a warmer climate.
Yeah. I know, right?
Could happen.
It could.
But it would take millions of years.
It would.
None of us would see it, but it could happen. Or something like them. But yeah, and kind of a side issue, reading all these old nuclear war stories that I've been running into just recently, is how the threat of the nuclear war has acted as a deterrent, not to war itself, but to going all the way.
Yeah.
We've seen that it would be a lose-lose, and even our enemies realize that we can't go there because none of us would win.
It's like a really interesting social contract dynamic.
Yeah, and so that fear has kind of held us back from going down that road. And so the only two nuclear weapons that have ever been detonated are in war have been Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. Since then, none have been used in war, only in tests.
Yep.
And of course, those affected our own citizens.
Yes, they have. Man-made issues in the environment.
I saw a chart online of how all those nuclear tests out in Nevada, how weather patterns would have distributed that radiation, and pretty much all the prairie, Great Plains states were just under this red cloud. Yeah. Because of that.
So interesting.
And people were like 2 miles away watching the bombs go off.
Watching them from their, windows of their house. Yeah.
And I
driving their cars out there to watch it with a picnic.
I just recently saw the movie
Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Very, very excellent movie. I'm anticipating some awards coming for that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And but that one too, they were standing and watching
as
these bombs go off.
And it's
they're, even though they're
inhaling a lot of radiation.
They've got all this radiation falling on them.
Yep. Well, and I even watching the Chernobyl miniseries, you just don't understand how devastating it was and how everything was so contaminated. Like, we can't fathom how contaminated things were and how bad it was. And because there's so much we couldn't see.
Yeah.
And it was all invisible elements, but it was very much
Japan's
there.
Going through that too with that reactor that got hit in that earthquake.
Yep.
Got a whole area that's, I believe it's not yet inhabitable.
No, even Chernobyl, I mean, wildlife is coming back, but for the most part, nobody will be able to live around Chernobyl without risk.
Just the history, as long as people remember it, they're going to go, no, I'm not buying a house there.
Yep. Even though there is some real estate available. So,
I would imagine.
I mean, if you already had cancer and were going to die anyway, maybe it wouldn't be so terrible. I don't know. Yeah. But hey, whatever. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting subject matter, especially after the happenings of World War II. And it is interesting, too, to read something like this with a movie such as Oppenheimer out now. And, like, the Chernobyl miniseries, and to have, like, a better understanding of what's going on because those films dumbed it down for us as much as they could.
Yeah, well, and just we have a totally different perspective on the whole issue than they did in 1953, or even 1950 when Shadow on the Hearth was published.
Yeah.
And that's one I keep mentioning because I was blown away by that book.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you were.
It was amazing. That book should be brought back. Well, it is in print, but not publicized all that much. Not much of anybody knows it. I got a beautiful copy, first edition, for
nice.
I think I paid $20.
Very nice.
It's not signed, but
hey,
you know, it's still a pristine first edition that I got of that book. And
it talks about this very subject matter.
But if people really, if more people read that book and really thought about it, I think it should be one that's being sought after a lot more. It's a brilliant book. Wonderful.
Very good. But yeah, Philip K. Dick. Another little Dick strikes again.
Yeah, not quite as good as some of his other stories, but still enjoyable.
It was enjoyable. It was a quick read. You know, I had mine done in like maybe 20-30 minutes. And that's with cat snuggle interruptions. They're very demanding. They've been very demanding lately. They're sassy.
Yeah.
But it was a good story. Definitely recommend one. Yeah, I wouldn't say top tail though. This falls short of some of the Philip K. Dicks that we've read for me.
Yeah, there wasn't quite the Philip Dick weirdness that you expect. Just, you know, some of the biological weirdness, some of the creatures that he imagined becoming human-like is
giant
kind
bug
of
people.
Interesting, but still not quite.
I got more like John Carter of Mars vibes from this than anything. So, but it's still a fun adventure. That's all I gotta say about it.
Okay. So have you ever read Planet for Transients? Leave comments about Philip Dick if you want, and definitely like the video, subscribe to our channel, and come on back for more. The next Dick we'll cover is called Some Kinds of Life, also October 1953. So you can probably toss a coin as to which of the three in October were published first. You know, so my order may not be truly accurate as to who hit the newsstand.
Yeah, first, second, or third.
Wasn't alive back then, but you know that's what I'm calling next, and that'll be number 29. We've done 20,
and we have almost hit 30.
We've done 28 Philip Dick stories now.
30 little dicks almost. So yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.